that's spreading rapidly.
This call is now being recorded.
Throughout our city, state, and nation. Our doctors, nurses, technicians, and everyone who supports patient care are rising to the occasion and caring for our most vulnerable populations. Your dedication, commitment, and courage deserve our deepest gratitude and admiration. On behalf of Nirmala College for Women and VIT Institute of Technology, I express my appreciation and gratitude for these everyday heroes. I am honored and privileged to welcome our chief guest, Dr. Raj Radeshwari, gynecologist, Sri Ramakrishna Hospital, and advisor of the Guide Foundation for the Young Generation. To mention a few achievements of a madam, she has completed her MBBS in Madras Medical College. She is a specialist in gynecologist. She also completed her management studies in hospital management at Madras University. She had been a trained childbirth educator. She is currently working in gynecology assistant at Sri Ramakrishna Hospital. She is an advisor of Guide Foundation for Young Generation. She also worked as a former local officer of reproductive health and AIDS. She had attended 4 international conferences and 8 national level conferences. She has given number of lectures and social awareness talks in various esteemed institutions. To mention a few, Queen Mary's Arts College, Meenakshi College, Mada Engineering, SBOA group of schools, and so on. The Department of Economics, Nirmala College for Women, and BIT Institute of Technology are happy to have such an eminent personality today. I request Dr. Rajaradeshwari ma'am to take over the session. Ma'am, over to you, ma'am.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. Thanks for your so long welcome talk. I know it is indeed a great pleasure for me to be a part of such an international webinar. We all know this is a very hectic situation for all the citizens and throughout the world. This pandemic is making people so much worrisome. They lose their relatives, their own family members, their own children in some case, and their children are losing their parents in some places. And when such things are existing, I think this meeting would make the participants mentally strong and make sure that they can face this COVID situation in a very better way, in a safest way, and thus preventing themselves and also their family members from acquiring this infection. Okay, so can you please share my slides?
Yes, ma'am, I have shared.
One second. I couldn't actually. I'll just pin yourself so that I can view. One second. No, I'm not able to see the slides.
Meenakshi. The ID is Meenakshi.
I'm not able to view actually. One second. Yeah, okay, it is fine now. Yeah. Yes, can you please start a slideshow, please? Yes, okay, that's fine. So the title, what I selected for my talk for today was Fears, Facts and Future COVID-19 in Pregnancy and Vaccination. The title was chosen by me because there are some fears existing. See, this COVID infection is all new to all of us. But being pregnant and that lady is getting infected with something, a new infection, it creates a lot more of anxiety in her, and also so many fears in her that such a new infection has come in with me. So what will be the future of myself and my baby? So such fears are existing. And facts, yes, I want to make sure that what COVID-19 infection is all about, and about facts about vaccine also. and what would be the near future after this COVID infection, or what would be the waiting days for us. So all those will be spoken by me, or no, just made like an eye opener through this session. So next slide, please. Yes. So this picture you can as clearly see. See, there is two type of coronavirus till now discovered. So what we are seeing now as a pandemic is SARS coronavirus 2. Why it was told 2? Because there was one more SARS coronavirus, which was SARS coronavirus 1. Okay, that one has previously infected people, human beings, causing similar respiratory infection, and those were all like zoonotic. That means that infection has come to humans only from the animals. They were acquired from animals. So probably the researchers and findings, or scientists research or everything towards like how would have this coronavirus to first originated in this world. Some say it would have been leaked out from the laboratories at Wuhan or so, but still there are suspicion that these viruses would have been come to the human from animals. So it can be, maybe this may be also the fact that it would have come from human, I mean animals to human. Right now we are spreading human, that is transmission, right? Droplet transmission, as we all know, right? It's a respiratory infection, means which is infecting your lungs and air passage. So it is through cough, when you sneeze, when you cough, and through droplets, right? Even when we speak, there are some droplets spilling forward. So the see, if a person is coughing or sneezing, then talking, see, all the three modes can spread the infection from one person to other person. That's the only reason we advise to wear the face mask and face shields. So okay, you can ask me, doctor, can you tell me how long, I mean, if I cough or sneeze, how surely or in what distance my droplet or the thing which is getting transmitted from an infected person to other would travel? Okay, so actually, you trust me or not, when I cough right now and you are in front of me, the droplets which I'm spilling out can travel 4 feet distance in 1 second. So imagine, can you run 4 feet distance in 1 second to go away from the person? Not at all. So that's why the protection with face mask and face shield is always necessary. So it can travel up to 4 feet distance, and with respect to cough, it is more faster. The travel duration is more faster because your chest muscles are all going to push it out very forcefully. So the speed of droplet transmission will be more faster while you cough or sneeze than while talking. So face mask is surely necessary. Then from human to human, next worrisome thing is in this image which we see in the last part is, if she is a pregnant mother, will that be a transplacent transmission to the baby or not? That is the concern of us today, right now. So today our talk is going to be purely confined with COVID-19 in pregnancy and breastfeeding alone, and a very little about COVID-19 in non-pregnant people also. Okay, so next slide. Yes. So this is structure of coronavirus. We would have all seen this 1.5 long years. We are coming across this image everywhere, wherever we go, posters and videos everywhere. So very important thing to notice in this is that yellow portion which is spiking out. Those are called as spike glycoprotein. They are very important. Just have a look on it because I'm not going to explain more about this virus like a microbiologist, but just have a look over it. So the next slide, please. Yes, so case statistics right now in India, we all know that the cases of second wave is slowly falling down, but it is still high. So why was the caseload more heavy in the second wave than first wave? Will all be told by me in upcoming slides. But right now we have positivity rate of 5.6%, which is less than 10%, because before last 13 days our positivity rate was more than 10%, which was so high. But now we are decreased the positivity rate, but death rate is still high, like per day, last 24 hours the death rate was 2500 plus. So still our death rates are peaking, and case load is still there. Case load is, though it is falling down, declining, death rates are still peaking. So not only me, you would have seen many experts and professionals speaking in YouTube channels and medias that please do get vaccinated, so that you could prevent the COVID infection. The ideal thing is, and some do ask me, can you guarantee me or warranty me that if I get vaccinated, don't I surely not get this infection? See, it's with human life. No one can give a guarantee or warranty for human life. I hope you all know what exists in a minute, we doesn't know whether that would be alive for the next minute or not, right? So the only thing is, if you get vaccinated, I cannot bet or assure that this infection will not come for you, or you will not acquire this infection. Only thing I can tell you is, you will not go to ICU. You will not go to deathbed. You will not stay in ICU. I can tell this for sure. So that is the motive of vaccination, that not to prevent the infection, but to prevent its transmission from one to other, and to prevent the severity. That's the motive of vaccination. Please make it clear. Okay. So next slide. So who are at risk for this COVID infections? We all know, we are hearing this through number of days, like 1.5 years. We are hearing all these stories. So elderly people, diabetic, hypertensive, asthmatic, who previously has some lung infections, smokers, alcoholic, who had organ transplantation, means they will be on immunity suppressive agents. So they are, and those with HIV infection, because their immunity will be low, and with cancer people also will be taking some immunity suppressant agents, and recent history of surgery, because their immunity and their mobility, their movement also will be less. They will be mostly in bed, so their immunity will be low. And finally, pregnancy and postnatal mothers. You can ask me, why did you add pregnancy and postnatal mothers at risk? Because pregnancy is not a pathologic condition. It is just a physiological process, right? So it is not like someone getting diseased in pregnancy. Pregnancy is a normal thing. Why you are telling they are at risk? Because pregnancy is also we call them as immunocompromised state. Like if you compare a non-pregnant woman with a pregnant woman, this pregnant lady has 2 times more chance of acquiring COVID infection than a non-pregnant lady. So again, they are at higher risk. And postnatal mothers, immediately after delivery, the same, that pregnancy state would be there for 6 weeks after delivery. It takes 6 weeks for the woman to go back to her pre-pregnant state. So again, in that 6 weeks duration, she is still at high risk of acquiring infection than a non-pregnant lady, right? So next slide. Okay, so first, before discussing purely about pregnancy, I would like to highlight about the vaccines available in India. We all know about it, Covishield and Covaxin, and Sputnik V to be added shortly. And as you may all know, but a short detail about the vaccine. So Covishield is made from out of chimpanzee monkeys. The stool of the monkeys are being taken. So they isolate a dummy virus from the stool of the chimpanzee, lab grown chimpanzee monkeys, and they genetically modify, like that spikes. What I showed you, yellow spikes from the virus, they genetically modify with similar, like genetic material like that of the spike protein. And that is being available as vaccine, so that if I get injected, my body thinks that the spike protein, same genetic material as that of the spike protein, is circulating in my body. So it gets wrongly moved that real coronavirus has entered me, so it produces antibodies. So I'm just going to cheat my immune system, make it think like coronavirus has entered me, but actually not. That's how Covishield works. Whereas in Covaxin, which is being produced by Bharat Biotech, here the real COVID virus from an infected individual is being taken, and its virulence or the capacity of infecting the individuals is made very, very, very less by reducing its infectivity, and it's being produced as vaccine. So it's like a mini dose of real coronavirus. So again, my body thinks that COVID infection has come to me and it starts producing antibodies. So this is how Covishield and Covaxin works. The next vaccine is Sputnik V. So Sputnik V is also again going to be in market in another few days. Sputnik V, as we all know, the name Sputnik is very familiar. It is the first artificial satellite of Russia. The vaccine, as name states, produced by Russian country. So what is special about Covishield or that with Sputnik V comparing with Covishield or Covaxin? So Sputnik V is more or less similar to Covishield or AstraZeneca. It is more or less similar. How do you say it is more or less similar, ma'am? Like that, such doubts can occur in your minds. It is because this vaccine is also going to be from adenovirus, which is a kind of what I told, no, dummy virus. Similar to that, adenovirus is going to be isolated from laboratory, and that virus is going to be genetically altered like the spike protein of COVID virus, and it's going to be injected. But one thing, a differentiating feature between the Covishield and this Sputnik V is that in Covishield, there is only one Covishield vaccine available. First dose, if you put also the same Covishield, and the second dose also same Covishield. Whereas in Sputnik V, the adenovirus which is going to be used for this process are two different types: adenovirus type 26 and type 25. So if I'm going to get Sputnik V first dose, it should be with 26. Then the second dose is going to be with adenovirus type 5. So because I cannot get the same type for both the times, because my body thinks already the person is infected with that virus, so it's going to be same, so my body will not work towards the second dose. So Sputnik V is going to have same similar two doses like Covishield and Covaxin, and in 21 days interval, and it is going to be two different vaccines, two different types of vaccine for first dose and second dose. That is going to be difference between the Covishield and Sputnik V. Otherwise, the mechanism of action is going to be similar. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so moving on to our topic of interest, pregnancy, lactation, and this is pre-conception. So this period, some women like dreaming or just thinking to get conceived, right? It is a very great plan that women or a couple makes to get conceived. Like they would have a lot of plans in their mind according to their family situation, or according to their marital status, or according to their many personal histories. They may plan to get conceived at this time. So there is a question among the women whether is it right time to plan my pregnancy or not. So the answer is yes, you can plan. Actually, initially when the corona infection just came last year, by March or April, all the fertility institutes stopped making people undertaking that fertility treatments and so. But now all the fertility treatments are being resumed back, and fertility treatments, IVF treatments, are all being given to patients. So you can safely conceive. But the only thing is, if you are going to conceive, please understand that you have to visit hospital for a number of reasons. Like once if you become pregnant, you have to go for scans, you have to go for blood tests, and keep them all in mind. And if you are really in need to get the conceive at this time, you can surely go ahead. There is no contraindication that you shouldn't get conceive at this time. Then our labor rooms would be empty with no people coming out for delivery. So you can go ahead with that. So next slide. Next slide is for those who are thinking to conceive naturally, that is fine. But those who want to go with IVF, in vitro fertilization, and conceive, that means who couldn't naturally conceive all these years and just planning to conceive by artificial methods, are in great trouble now, and they are very much worried that artificial methods involve oocyte retrieval. We say some process called oocyte retrieval. When the woman produces mature egg, by 14th day of her cycle, that egg would be removed out from her, preserved artificially, made it fertilized in laboratory, in vitro, and then we inject back to the woman. So whether such procedures are very safe to be done in this pandemic period, this question is among the minds of couples, and they are very worried to go ahead with this IVF procedures. So initial days, all these IVF procedures were not done because See this IVF procedure, what I said right now in a line, no, the oocyte will be made to get mature. This will all not happen in a day or night. So this is going to be a monthly process. We plan the woman, we follow her with the number of injections, scans, medicines, and then we decide, okay, she is in the right stage now. Her oocyte is in a very good fertile stage. So I can make her proceed with in vitro fertilization. So this is a plan that's going to be done over months. So I cannot do it in a day. So it takes months of follow-up for you to come to hospital and be with us. So again, now fertility treatments are being done in India and we are all resumed back. So people are going ahead. Only worry was virus related complications, like if the woman get COVID infection, whether it may affect the baby, or baby may become abnormal one with some anomalies, such thoughts, which what we call as teratogenicity. So all these were in the minds of people, but right now we don't have any reported case of teratogenicities or anomalous fetuses with COVID infection in early pregnancy. So we do go ahead with in vitro fertilization procedures in this pandemic period also. So next slide. Yes, so pregnancy is a beautiful period. It's a physiological condition where we divide this 10 months of period actually, but please all make sure it's not 10 full months. Actually, it is 280 days. That doesn't make 10 months. If it is 10 months, would have 300 days, right? If I am not wrong in maths, it would have been 300 days. But actually, a pregnancy is 280 days time, which is 10 lunar months. Okay, make sure that it's not 10 complete months. According to our Indian calendar, it is 10 lunar months. So it is only 280 days. So this 280 days is being divided into 3 trimesters, first, second, and third trimester, and finally is your postnatal period. Okay, next slide. So first trimester is what from the conception, from the time your UPT card shows 2 lines to till your 3 months of pregnancy is your first trimester. So in this trimester, first trimester, so I have made sure in the slides when you should come to hospital and when you can stay at home. So first, if your card is turning positive with 2 lines, come to a gynecologist, visit us, so make sure you are pregnant and your pregnancy is within the uterus and not in the tubes or ovaries, what we call pregnancy. So make sure about that. You have to visit a gynecologist, double line in UPT. So next, after which we will ask you to come at 6 weeks to confirm the fetal heartbeat. Okay. So after which you can again visit us. If the heartbeat doesn't appear by 6 weeks, we give them 2 weeks time to come back at 8 weeks. And again, you should visit us for sure at 12 weeks for a screening test, for a first trimester screening test we call for Down syndrome, we screen them, and a scan called NT scan or nuchal translucency scan. This will be done at 12 weeks. For sure, after the 6 weeks, if you are confirming that your baby's heartbeat has come and it is within uterus, next visit should be at 12 weeks for sure. Until then, stay home and stay safe. So when you have to come to hospital in between the 6 weeks and 12 weeks, means if you have such alarming signs like bleeding per vaginum, pain abdomen, excessive vomiting, giddiness, any of these symptoms persist with you, you have to visit us anytime between the 6 weeks to 12 weeks. Otherwise, you can stay at home very happy. Okay, so next slide. So second trimester is where between 3rd to 7th month, from 12 weeks to 28 weeks. And this period, only one important scan, which is anomaly scan by 5th month. You have to make sure that your baby's growth is fine, all the organs are fine, and brain development is okay, everything. And in this period, main thing which you have to perceive is the fetal movements. Where it is normal, you are able to feel it, you have to look for the fetal movements. And when you have to come to me is if you have any such alarming signs like excessive weight gain. Like weight gain can be like 1 kg per trimester is okay, means per 4 month 1 kg. So if it is going to be more than that, excessive weight gain, reduced fetal movements, less urine output if you haven't passed urine for a day or for a half day, and facial puffiness, headache, nausea, vomiting, epigastric. Because this less urine output, headache, vomiting, epigastric pain mean upper abdominal pain. All these are features that your BP is shooting up. So BP increase during pregnancy is very common thing. So you have to be very alarming becoming very you have to like notice yourself whether there are some changes in your body. Do you feel heavy, suddenly heavy? Do you feel like very abnormal, like what has not been all these day, has something has changed, you feel some change in you very newly? So you have to look for all these changes in yourself. If any of these warning signs are not being faced by you, you can please stay at home very safe. Don't come to hospitals to make booking for video consultation with your gynecologist. That is more than enough. Okay, next slide. Yes, next third trimester is from the 28th week to till the due date, till you deliver your baby. So again, the main thing you have to notice, keep a watch is your baby's movement. And again, it depends upon gynecologists. We plan a growth scan at around 28 to 32 weeks. Some gynecologists plan at around 28 weeks. Some will plan around 32 weeks. And one more repeat scan before a due date, 2 weeks before your due date, maybe around 37, 38 weeks. So till then, in between time, you can stay home. And when you have to come to me is again the same facial puffiness. You feel sudden heaviness of your body, bleeding per vaginum, fetal movements. You're not. See, I just now saw a patient in my emergency department before 5-10 minutes. She was not able to feel her baby's movements since 2 days, and she is coming out very casually on a Sunday afternoon saying that my baby's movements are very bad. So it's again going to be an emergency, and her baby's heartbeat is not that satisfactory. So very important alarming sign what mothers can feel if their baby status is not good is the fetal movements. So please keep a very careful watch over it. So some may ask me, how can I notice my fetal movements? So after every meal, either a breakfast or a lunch or a dinner, just keep observing the movements. You can feel the kick. It should be at least 4 to 5 kicks after your meal. Like in 2 to 3 hours, it should be at least 4 to 5 kicks. So throughout the day, it should be at least 12 kicks per day, at least minimum. Okay. So if you're not able to feel that movements or kick, please, you have to come to us anytime. Anytime it may be an emergency. So leaking PV, leaking is what you broke out your water. Again, that is going to be an emergency, because once you break out your water, your pains may start. So you have to come and pain abdomen. So any of such warning signs exist with you, you have to come to us immediately as early as possible. If not, stay home and make video consultation. Okay. So next slide. Okay, so this is all about how your pregnancy can go ahead, and what are the alarming signs. So now next, I'm going to tell if a pregnant mother is going to become COVID positive. So whether all these trimester wise, the scenario is going to change or what is what I'm going to discuss in the next few minutes. So if a pregnant mother is becoming positive, first I have to see what is her month of pregnancy, what is her gestation age, what month of pregnancy is she right now. That is very important for me. If she is in the first trimester, what I told before, 3 months, till 3 months, right, from pregnancy to 3 months, if it is in the first trimester, I will say it is okay, come get admitted in the hospital. We'll treat you with supportive management. That's it. She'll be in hospital if it is first trimester. Whereas if it is going to be in second trimester, that is between 13 weeks to 28 weeks, again admission. Why, madam, you doesn't tell home isolation and you always tell to go ahead with hospital admission? Just a minute, 1 second. Yes, sorry for the inconvenience. So now we'll go ahead with why you are telling about hospital admission, because in pregnancy, the whole body system is going to be changed. Like a lady's circulatory changes will be there. Lady's body will have circulatory changes. The blood volume will increase. The blood flow rate to various organs will increase. Mainly uterus will have more blood supply than other vital organs. And there are going to be multiple changes in her heart, in her cardiac system also. In all the systems of the body, there are going to be plenty of changes, right? So when it is going to be so, her coagulation, what we call as the tendency of the blood to form clots, blood clots, will be more in a pregnant lady than a normal individual. So we always advise them to get admitted, because we have to monitor their capacity to form clots, which is very important, because if I do miss that, she may have more tendency to form clot already being pregnant, and this COVID is going to add fuel to the fire, because in COVID infection there is much more higher chances to form, for chances of the blood forming clots. So again, she will have that risk higher, and if in case she develops blood clots, that can circulate throughout her body, and it can go to her lungs, block her lungs, and she can go for even sudden death. So as her tendency to form blood clots is very high, I recommend her to get admitted at hospital, whatever gestation age may be. But if you don't have much symptoms other than mild fever or cold, you can stay home, but still you must get investigated with all blood investigation and be under the observation, or with contact with your gynecologist. That is a very better or a best idea that you can do for yourself and your baby. So next, is CT scan necessary and X-ray necessary? So now, with talking with about only pregnant women, so she is a pregnant lady, I cannot put her under radiation exposure, so I cannot do CT scan in a pregnant lady. So nowadays people see COVID positive, they directly go to a scan center, directly do a CT scan and come for admission only with COVID report and a CT scan. So CT scan has become like on counter drug nowadays. So anyone can go do a CT scan, come to a doctor. It's not with doctor's prescription nowadays. So, but it is actually a wrong idea. CT scan should be only done with doctor's prescription, and you should not decide whether you are an ideal candidate for CT scan. There are certain conditions only when you can take CT, but in pregnancy you can never take a CT scan, so you cannot. So the drawback here is, I know she is COVID infected, but as I cannot do CT scan, I will not know in what way her lung is affected. Is it like 50% infected, or not at all infected, only a mild condition, or it is 100% infected? I cannot know her real infection status. That is a drawback. And X-ray, again, it's a radiation exposure. We don't do it in a pregnant woman. I can do a CT in a pregnant woman only in one condition, where the mother's state is deteriorating. She is in a very bad status, her vitals are very unstable, she is like to collapse. Here I will see to save my mother, not the baby. I give the preference to mother. So in that case, I can get a high risk consent and shield the mother's abdomen with a lead shield and go ahead with CT scan only if she is in a dead emergency or in a critical state, otherwise not in a very stable woman. And about delivery, if you are COVID positive mother, obviously your mode of delivery will be cesarean, because you cannot ask for a normal delivery where the duration of exposure for yourself with your gynecologist and your fellow nurses is going to be very long hours. So nowhere they do normal delivery for COVID positive. We do, in case if we doesn't know your report, we do that. We have delivered some people and came to know about their COVID status later on. Those theories are still existing, but still if we know you are COVID positive, we will not go with normal delivery. And the delivery will be as usual, like close to your due date only, like only after 37 weeks we plan your delivery. Not that as you're COVID infected we should plan it early before the due date, or you may have chances for preterm birth, what we say in early weeks. So there are chances COVID infection have reported some preterm birth, means low birth weight baby, like before due date itself, some break their water and they have gone for delivery. But because of that reason, there is no compulsion that we should deliver you early. It's always close to your due date, like how we plan for others, the same. It's not that you will be delivered earlier than other non-COVID women, right? Non-COVID pregnant women. So next slide. Okay, now next slide, ma'am. Now, okay, you spoke all about pregnancy, madam. Like, what about you delivered my baby also? So post delivery, what will be the status of my baby is going to be discussed in upcoming slides. So next slide, please. Okay, so mode of delivery, as I told, would be mostly cesarean and vertical transmission. So this is a very concerning thing. All mothers, they have a fear. If I'm COVID infected, first question is, mothers always, they are concerned about their children, their baby, the unborn, the baby who is in the womb, is parents are, the mother is very concerned about the baby which is in her womb, not about herself, right? All mothers first they ask what will happen to my baby. Their first question to you will be what will happen to my baby. So the answer is there are a minimal chances for the baby to get infection from you, like less than 1% chance, because there are some cases reported about transmission from mother to baby. So how those were reported in the sense, so the baby, as soon as the baby was born, they have tested the antibodies of the baby. So if I am having COVID in antibodies, that should be because I got 2 vaccines of COVID, either due to that, or might be I would have also got COVID infection without my knowledge or with my knowledge. So there are 2 ways only for me to get the COVID antibodies. But those newborn babies, direct fresh from the mother's womb, had antibodies for COVID infection. So that way, people are maybe there are chances for the infection would have gone from the mother to child. So there are some little chances. So what about breastfeeding? You can safely continue breastfeeding if you are COVID positive after delivery, or I mean maybe after delivery 2 months or 3 months later, or while delivering itself you are COVID positive, my baby can stay with me, should I feed? Yes, you can go ahead with breastfeeding only, not with formula feeds. You can feed your baby directly. But where should baby stay? With me, or it will not be with me because I have COVID infection, my baby may get, such doubts are there. See, you can safely feed your baby with same safety precautions. Hand washing is very, very important. You have to wear face mask and only feed the baby. And after feeding the baby, you can keep the baby 2-meter distance away, because it's a born baby. You're going to place it in a cradle only. The cradle will be 2-meter distance, social distancing, right? What we say. So a 2-meter distance away from your bed. The baby can be placed in a cradle, or if you have a healthy caregiver or nurses with you, you can give the baby outside the room where you are. So baby can either be with you at some distance away, or baby can go out of the room also, as you wish. So, will the baby undergo COVID test? Obviously, as you are positive, the newborn baby will also be tested for COVID, but the protocols varies. Like either 24 hours, some hospitals test by 24 hours, some hospitals test by 48 hours. So, average by 24 to 48 hours, your baby will undergo COVID test to know whether it is infected or not. That is mandatory, right? When to go home after delivery? As usual, after delivery, we discharge them by 4th or 5th post-operative day. We discharge them to home. But the thing is, if your COVID, we will also check your COVID status. As I said, your tendency to form the blood clots are very high, right? Post-pregnancy, once I deliver the baby out, the tendency will slowly start decreasing. But you still have COVID infection. I have to monitor your blood clot formation capacities, whether you are still in a higher level to form clots. I have to monitor, because even post-delivery, if you form clots, you may get DVT, what we call deep venous thrombosis in the limbs. You may get, because post cesarean you won't walk more, right? I got my cesarean done, it's very painful. All ladies lie down flat, they don't walk much. So do not walking, not walking much, and also added with COVID and also your pregnancy, all these are going to make you in a very high risk status. So I have to monitor all your clot forming tendency, then only plan about your discharge. So after your delivery, now I can take CT scan or X-ray, because you don't have a baby now. So you can have your radiation exposure. If I wanted to know that your status is deteriorating or your symptoms have increased, I can do a CT or an X-ray to know what is your real infectious status. I can go ahead with investigations like that. So when to resume back to normal activity? So post cesarean, we always tell after 4th, 5th day, whenever we discharge home, we say you go back to your normal routine, take a water shower, bath shower, like what you routinely do. You can take hair wash, you can feed your baby, everything. The only thing is, do not lift very heavy weights or sit down over the floor for 1 to 2 months is what general advice we give. But additionally, we also add for these COVID positive mothers, stay home for 14 days. Home quarantine after discharge is necessary for 14 days, and you don't have to repeat COVID test again after 14 days. That is not only for pregnant women, for anyone. If you're COVID infected, you did not repeat your COVID test after 14 days of infection. Just be in isolation for 14 days, and 15th day you can come out. But when you have to do COVID test after home isolation, even after 14 days of isolation, you still have fever, high fever on and off, high cough, worsening cough very often, then you have to repeat your COVID test again, or still you cannot come out of home isolation if you have such symptoms. So when you can come out only at the end of 14 days, you don't have any symptoms. If you have symptoms, you cannot come out even at the end of 14 days. You can repeat your test or get admitted in the hospital. So when this home isolation becomes a hospital admission is where you have such worsening symptoms, like always worsening cough, high temperature every day. So such symptoms are there. Please don't come out of your house. If you are in home isolation, go to hospital admission. You cannot roam out. It doesn't mean that if it is 14 days done, you are all good, fine. So if such symptoms are there, you still are under red flag sign, what we tell. You are under danger signs only. So you have to go for hospital treatment. Okay. So next slide. Yes. So some people here, I want to talk about vaccination in next few slides. Some people still know they are not very happy with the vaccines available in India. So I've been talking for since like 30-40 minutes about COVID, vaccination, pregnancy, breastfeeding, all those putting so much efforts, but still people are not happy with the vaccines available in India. Why should I take vaccine, doctor? You are just making business and you are just recommending some companies. Are you having some business link with them, or some thoughts are prevailing? And even in social media, people comment that vaccination is a business. People, we are not in a state to analyze or to research whether we are getting a good vaccine or whether our vaccination is a business. We are in a state to prevent the transmission of infection from one person to other and to reduce the death rate. And we are right now in a state to reduce these both and also take care of our dears and nears, like prevent their death, right? If I am there here, I'll surely think about my parents. I'll surely think about my family members, that they shouldn't get infected. I shouldn't lose them. So this is only motive of us. This should be the only motive for all of us. And it shouldn't be like whether vaccine is a business, whether they are making money out of it. This shouldn't be your thought right now. Please to get vaccinated as early as possible. And there are some people and news going on that if you get vaccinated, you may get what I was telling. No, you have tendency to form clots. This will also happen with vaccine. Why should I artificially take a vaccine and make myself worsen still more? See, please see in this image so carefully. See, the risk of forming clots, there are may happen in many situations. One is pregnancy. Pregnancy itself is a state where your blood volume will be more and your clotting factors will be less, so you have high tendency to form clot. So that is one condition. Next, as I said, after any surgeries, we won't walk. We will be in a bed for a very long time, in immobilization state. So that will again have more chance for forming blood clots. And third is who are smokers, who are alcoholics, who are diabetics, hypertensive, and also who are on such medications like for antiplatelet drugs, right? For some heart disease or something, they take some drugs. So those people, and again, we gynecologists give OC pills, birth control pills to women. So all these women, and finally obese people who are more than their BMI, they all have high risk of forming blood clots. Okay, not only those, if you get vaccinated, you don't get it as a new thing in your body. The formation of clots is not going to be a new factor in your body. So what these people whom I listed now, all of them have high tendency to form blood clot. But see, if you take a OC pill, you have 0.12% of chance. And if you are a smoker, you still have a high chance, 0.18. Whereas if you get COVID infection, as I told you, your capacity to form clot is still more higher, 15%, 16%. Whereas if you take vaccine, this is only 0.0004% chance of getting clot. So people think wisely whether to get COVID infected and develop that capacity or tendency to form clots, or to get vaccinated and you may develop this formation of clots. Not necessarily all should develop. Maybe 1 or 2 develops that feature, 1 in 1 crore. So maybe if you may ask, if I am that 1 in 1 crore, what should I? So your percentage or chances of getting that is, risk percentage is only 0.004. So think whether you have to get infected with COVID infection or go ahead with vaccine. Okay, next slide. Okay, so I will just talk about all these drugs. I'm not going to talk in detail for about its use in non-pregnant. With pertaining to only pregnancy and these drugs, I'm going to talk because we all know remdesivir is like a magic drug for us. We stand in queue lines, we go ahead with ID cards, Aadhaar cards, pay 50,000, 1 lakh, and we get these medicines. So, can I give this remdesivir, pay, buying it for 1 lakh to my pregnant wife? This is the question of many. No, remdesivir is contraindicated in pregnancy, so we don't give in pregnancy. So in case if her status is worsening, we will first deliver her, we'll take the baby out, then see her lung status. Depending upon the CT involvement, our lung involvement, we start with remdesivir. But when her baby is inside, we never give remdesivir. Okay, so next slide. Next is methylprednisolone, which is a steroid. We all know now people are telling, doctors are giving steroid in a very abnormal fashion, because of which we develop more infections. So we shouldn't go to doctors. We shouldn't get admitted in hospital for COVID treatment. They'll push me with all steroids. Such nonsense talks is also going. See, there is judicious use of steroids. All doctors try to follow or go ahead with such judicious use only. There are situations which necessitates the use of steroids. So in that situation, we must use it. So in such case, whether pregnant woman can get steroids is a question, right? She can also get steroids. This methylprednisolone can be given to the woman even when the baby is within her. Even when before the delivery, we can give her. That methylprednisolone, the same another drug of the same group is dexamethasone. That steroid is still more very good than methylprednisolone. What we use for non-pregnant patients, other COVID patients, we can still prefer other drug, because this drug indirectly has another very golden work. What way is that? Is going to help the lung maturity of the baby. In case if I'm going to deliver the woman because of some alarming signs in very early months, like maybe in 8th month or 9th month, where our due date is not very close, it may be a preterm that time, and baby's lung maturity may be poor. So in that case, I can still go with steroids, but not with methylprednisolone, but with dexamethasone, which is also another steroid. It's going to help in case of a pregnant woman for her baby's lung maturity also, and for her also in reducing the symptoms. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so this is all about the new evolving things. Okay, so we now see like DRDO has given out a new research drug 2DG, okay, 2-deoxy-D-glucose. So I get phone calls on and off asking, doctor, it is going to be a powder, not an injection like prednisolone, or not an injection like remdesivir, where I have to stand in queue lines, pay lakhs, and buy. It's only a powder where I can mix at my home in a glass of water and drink. So it is going to be with less side effects. Can I take it? See, it doesn't mean that injection is one which will have more side effects, and if you drink by mouth, it will not have side effects, right? Please understand this 2DG glucose is also a form of glucose. So what we eat every day, rice, chapati, dosa, everything is glucose. But this is another form of glucose. This 2DG glucose have a tendency to cut off the glucose supply. What I eat, the food, no, that food will convert its glucose to energy once it goes to cells. That's what we say, if I eat, I feel very energetic, I feel I can do work. So how your form of glucose which you eat will be converted to energies, ATPs in your cells. Whereas this 2DG glucose will go and stop that glycolysis process, where your glucose is going to become energy in cells. So that my DRDO scientists are stating that if I do that, coronavirus is also a cell, right? It's a living viral cell. So in that case, if this 2DG will go inside, it will stop the energy supply to this virus. So virus should die, right? So the person's infection will curtail. So this is the idea behind this 2DG. But again, I'm not saying this is a new drug. This drug is being already used for PET CT scan and all, to pick up the areas where there is more glucose uptake, right? So the only thing is, I appreciate DRDO scientists. They have given first oral drug, but only thing is, how many people were involved in this study to use this oral powder and see whether it's working out? So only about 200 people were involved in the study to find out whether this was effective. And as it was working out with them, with those 200, they are telling this drug has been given emergency approval. So we do not know how far it may be effective, and 1 lakh people are given with this medicine. So I still feel this drug can be a trustworthy one if more people are being tested with this, right? With only 200 people, I cannot conclude it's a safest drug. Okay, so next slide. I'm telling for these are all for only non-pregnant. Pregnant ladies can never take 2 DG. Okay, so next is Clevera. So this is another thing people ask me, this Ayurveda drug, so no side effects. You are an English doctor, you will always stand against this. So I can have Clevera. Some people are coming to pharmacy directly taking Clevera. I saw with my own eyes. But what I will say is Clevera is again made up of some leaves from papaya plant, papaya leaf extract, what they use for dengue and all, no, the same. Okay, I purely say, okay, I'm not against Ayush doctors, or again no against allopathy, non-allopathic doctors. I'm not against them. My only concern is how many people were involved in testing this medicine. Where again only 100 were tested with this medicine, and with that they gave an emergency approval for that. So my only worrying thing is if this drug was tested with more number of people, again I can more trust this drug. So till then I cannot recommend that. It may be a safest drug, or it can prevent you from COVID infection. So I'm very sorry about Clevera also. Okay, next slide. Okay, so in this slide you can see, right? Okay, see, when 2 crore people were infected, were given a vaccine, and that vaccine is the thing which you people are not trusting. How can you people go behind a medicine which was tested only with 200 people? That thing is making me wonder every day. When people ask me whether I can go with 2DG or Clevera, I just think or wonder how some 2 crore people are already vaccinated. When you are not trusting that and you say I will die if I take the vaccine, why don't you think the other way for Clevera or 2DG also, that won't I die after taking that? Because people don't know that how was the drug tested, with how many people were they tested. They are not aware of it. That's, they simply get over the ads, advertisements and recommendations in some WhatsApp groups, and they have their Facebook university, all those things educate the people. And our Google doctors there, they all educate the people in a much better way than what we studied doctors or no degree with merit holders do. So they go behind such universities and WhatsApp schools. I'm very sorry about it. So please do think wisely and go behind the advice of medical practitioner. See this vaccine, I've shown the flow chart how our Covaxin and Covishield can prevent other variants. See, this second wave is so hazardous than first wave because there are number of variants than what we saw in the first corona wave. That is one reason. And second reason is this variants are more virulent, I mean more infective, and their transmissibility from one person to other person is very, very higher than what we saw in first wave. These are the reasons for high number of cases in this second wave. And one more reason, pregnant ladies were more affected and small children were more affected than in the first wave. That is also because of high virulence or a high infectivity of this virus, what we are seeing in the second wave. So you may ask me, as you told, I got vaccinated. Will my new variants, will I be protected against all these variants? So the answer is, see, AstraZeneca or this Covishield has 60% protective efficacy against all the strains, British strain, Brazilian strain, against all. But only one sad thing which you can see is South African strain. See, against South African strain, none of our vaccines are much effective. Only with Pfizer, it is only about 50% protective against South African vaccine, and our AstraZeneca is only 20% protective against South African variant. So pray God that you should not get infected with South African variant, and still that variant is not yet with much cases in India. So till then we are very lucky because that variant doesn't have much protection, though we are vaccinated with any of the vaccines available in India. Okay, so among all, we know Pfizer and Moderna, these two vaccines available in UK and US, have the highest efficacy, like Pfizer with 80 to 90%, and Moderna also having with 80 to 90%, whereas our Covishield and Covaxin has only 70 to 80% efficacy, protective efficacy. So that doesn't mean you shouldn't get vaccinated. We don't have Pfizer or Moderna. So what is available, please make use of it. Get at least 70 to 80%. protection against the virus. The rest 20% is all in your hands with the social distancing, face mask, and hand washing very frequently. So though you are vaccinated, it takes 2 weeks from the second dose for you to develop the immunity that of that 70 to 80%. So even after vaccination, you should be with all those precautions. And I'm sure this pandemic situation is going to be there for another 2 to 3 years. We are going to live with this COVID virus, and this is going to be our new normal life for next 2 to 3 years. So many ask me, when will this end? When I'm going to go mask free to my school or college? Please, I can make sure in this video that it will again take 2 to 3 years for us to go back to our old normal, but this is going to be our new normal for next 2 years at least. So try to live with this new normal life with all the face mask and all the possible protection. Don't go in crowds to grocery shops or essential shops. It is not that day, it's the end day of the world or end day of your life. Please understand, it is your life which is much more important than the essentials or groceries. Please do understand, don't go in crowds, don't keep some social distancing. If some place is crowded, we can just avoid the place. Don't go there for some unnecessary things if really situation doesn't demand. Okay, so next slide. Okay, the key message is what we should have be, right? We have protocols in our hospitals, so whom to notify, how we triage the people, right? And this is all a teamwork. First, we have to practice proper hand hygiene and proper social distancing. And as healthcare worker, we should do all the donning, doffing of PPE and everything in a better fashion so that we also don't acquire the infection, right? So next slide. Okay, that is end of the session. So this is my YouTube channel in the name Doctor's Mirror, where I keep posting all the updates about COVID-19 infection, vaccines, and various side effects of the virus in pregnant women and non-pregnant, and current updates of all of this COVID infection on my YouTube channel. If you are very interested, you can please subscribe to my channel or follow me in YouTube. And if you have any doubts or any queries, even in pregnant or non-pregnant, you can ask me there, or I'll share my mail ID through Mrs. Meenakshi Madam. You can get from her and contact me in any ways, and I'm very happy to clear all your queries anytime, anywhere. Okay. I hope I made the thing clear. Okay, so only one thing I would like to complete the session by stating that. So right now I'm working in a hospital in the gynecology department. I'm a gynecologist, you all know. What I saw, I want to share 2 lines so that people here may become more conscious and be more precautious hereafter at least. See, I happen to see 2 maternal deaths. Okay, see, once a woman is delivered, till 6 weeks, what I told you right now, till 6 weeks, if she died, that comes under the blame of an obstetrician, or I am the sole responsible for her for next 6 weeks. Whatever happens, maybe it can be because of me, my obstetric cause, or it can be because of any other medical cause. 6 weeks, if a woman died after delivery, it comes under maternal death. So recently, in the second wave, many maternal deaths are being recorded. That is mainly because of COVID. I happen to see 2 maternal deaths in my working hospital where the woman was absolutely fine. This is the second pregnancy for her. So she was absolutely fine. She has a 5-year-old girl baby already, and she has come here. It was around 34 weeks when she came. She was having only mild cough, mild cold. She was fine. For first 3 days of admission, she was very fine. 4th day onwards, she had problem in breathing. She couldn't breathe properly, only with the oxygen support, but with only 4 liters, meaning very minimal. She was breathing all fine. But suddenly her saturation, what we call SpO2, which you are all going to monitor if you're in home isolation, right? That SpO2 started falling for her. That means her oxygen demand is increasing. That 4 liters is not enough for her. We kept her in 10 liters, 11 liters. So we thought at this state, she's towards end of her pregnancy, right? So we have to take the baby out so that at least we give some drugs like remdesivir or any steroids we can give her if the baby is out. When the baby is within the mother, we cannot give many drugs to her. So we delivered her in a very rapid fashion. So after she was delivered, the baby is all fine, good, and the second baby was a boy baby, all everything fine. But what was the sad thing was she was requiring more oxygen, and she went into COVID ICU for further treatment. So in COVID ICU, she was sustaining for 5 to 6, 7 days with NIV support, what we call non-invasive ventilation, that is more than an oxygen cylinder. So through oxygen cylinder, we can deliver only 15 liters of oxygen. So she was per minute. So she was requiring more than 15 liters per minute. So she was put on non-invasive ventilator mission. So she sustained with that for 9 days. She couldn't see her baby. She didn't see the baby. See, baby was with her attenders, her husband and grandmother who were COVID negative. But she couldn't see the baby even because when we were doing cesarean itself, her oxygen need was more. So she was gasping. She was not like semi-conscious only. So she didn't see her baby also. So the baby was outside. She went to COVID ICU. She sustained for 9 days. On 10th day, her oxygen need went very badly down. So we have to intubate her, means artificially put a tube directly to her air passage. So that was connected to ventilator machine, which we call invasive ventilation. So once we put them into invasive ventilation, if they are COVID positive, as far as I saw, they don't come out of the situation. They just pass off. Okay, the same happened with this woman. She passed off by 10th day after trying her with invasive ventilation. So the story behind is, see, the woman, when I saw her for the first day, when she got admitted, she told me, I never go outside, doctor. I stay all time inside home. I did not know how did I get the infection. So it may be because my husband or I'm with my husband. Obviously, she is with her family members and they will be going out and she is indoors. So the source of infection for most of the pregnant women is their family members. So a kind request to all the family members, please do not go out unnecessarily, unwantedly. If the emergency, if there is no dead emergency, please don't go out unnecessarily, because indirectly your infection is going to affect the pillar of your house, the mother of 2 children. She doesn't live now. She is all away from us. She's passed away. Now she has 2 children sitting at home waiting for the mother to come from hospital. So what answer will you tell to her elder baby who will be waiting for her mother, who said a last bye to her mother before going to the hospital? So think twice before you go out and infect the high risk people in your home, maybe your elderly parents or grandparents or your pregnant wife or your deceased wife. Maybe she's having diabetic, hypertensive, who is at high risk. Please don't go out and infect those people who are staying within home and taking care of themselves. Try to stay indoors. If you cannot stay indoors, my only advice to you is stay away from them. Stay in a different place. Take your own house or own place. If you are a very business person, you have to go out. You cannot avoid. Stay away from those high risk individuals at your home. I'm a doctor. I have exposure every day. I cannot go to my home. It is since 2 months I went home. I'm staying away. I know I may get infected anytime. At least I should not go be with my parents and infect them. So please act with some responsibility. If you have to go out, stay away from your family. That's it. Okay, so this is the end of my session. So I hope all would be responsible in the upcoming days and follow all the precautions so that we would curtail this infection as early as possible. But still, this mask is going to be with us for another 1 year or 2 years, I hope. So all be safe and stay home. Don't go out. That's all fine. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity to Nirmala College and also to BITS. So I feel very happy to share all my ideas in such an international webinar. Thank you so much for this opportunity again. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Such an eye-opening presentation. I hope everyone present here has benefited from your enlightening speech. Now, the forum is open for your question and answers. If you have any question and answer, please feel free. You can ask the doctor now. Any questions?
Okay, I have a question, ma'am. Someone has asked me, can I get vaccinated if I'm having PCOD treatment? Yes, for sure, you can get vaccinated because obviously, when you're having PCOD, you will be a little obese, you will be little heavy than others. So, surely you must get vaccinated. There's no link between PCOD and vaccination. And another one doubt is, if I'm having my periods or if I'm close to my menses dates, can I have vaccination? Some fake news and messages are going on in this Facebook University and WhatsApp school. I'm totally against this. Vaccination has no connection with your menstrual cycle or your menses time. You can surely get vaccinated even if you are having menstrual bleeding, or even after that or before that. There is no relation with menses. I'm undergoing follicular study and we both had vaccinated, and after how many days? See, follicular study is where you try to find out what is the correct period for you to plan your pregnancy. You can keep undergoing that follicular study, no problem. Yeah, what study says that if you're vaccinated, after 2 weeks, if you get pregnant, that is fine. Means though if you are vaccinated now, you just wait for a month, then you plan your pregnancy. I tell you can wait for 4 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, then plan to conceive. But follicular study, let it go by hand. Nothing wrong if you do follicular study when you have vaccinated, no problem. Keep doing that, but plan for pregnancy after a month. Okay. So any other doubts? Yes, pregnancy can be advised after 2 doses of vaccine. Take 1 month or 2 to 4 weeks time interval between your second dose and your pregnancy.
Ma'am, can you comment on this third wave for now? Any sessions, events for kids?
Yeah. So what researchers say is that the third wave is mostly going to be one which affects the children. Okay. So obviously, see, elderly people, we either would have got vaccinated or either we would have got COVID infection itself. The only one who are left without vaccine and who have left without infections all these, they are young children. So there are high chances for the children to get vaccinated, get the infection, because they are not vaccinated. Either they may not be infected earlier also. So children are at high risk. Another one thing is, less than 2 years children, we don't recommend use mask, face mask. So we are recommending for children more than 2 years to use face mask, and that mask should be a very tight fitting mask to the ears. It should cover the whole face, nose and the mouth, and it should be very tight, correctly fitting, and it shouldn't be very loose like it falls off from the baby's face. But less than 2 years babies cannot wear mask. So again, they are at risk, and their immunity will be like from their mother, right? They will be only just acquiring at that time. Natural immunity will be there at birth, but still that acquired immunity will be only slowly developing at that time. So third wave, if it in case happens, it may attack children first, and again pregnant ladies are at a higher risk, and also non-vaccinated people are still at higher risk. See, the only time where we can end this infection, we can prevent further waves, is that only when we all get herd immunity. Herd immunity is what the immunity the whole community acquires against one particular infection. Against this coronavirus, the entire world should have developed immunity. When will that happen? Either the whole world would have got infected with the virus, or the whole world would have vaccinated indirectly with the antibodies of the virus. So either of the things should happen. Only then this pandemic or this waves all would end. So the right time is now to get vaccinated. That's why. So then only then we can end all these third wave or fourth wave further, right? So third wave, if it happens, my commentary will be on younger children and pregnant women. Okay, I have some doubts, sir. Some people have asked, after taking vaccine, there will be any. That's what. There is no relationship between your vaccination and your menstrual cycle. There will not be any change. You can please go ahead with any time during your menstrual cycle, any days, and there will not be any changes in your cycle. If you are getting in an altered way, maybe previously you were getting for 5 days bleeding, now it is 2 days. That's your mental issue. Mentally you are cycled like that it's because of vaccine. But vaccine doesn't cause any changes in men's. And all those videos in the Facebook school and WhatsApp university, they're all not true. Don't go behind that. Don't go behind that. Those news are not true. It can no way affect your menstrual cycle. Okay, I hope I cleared the doubt.
No, I just have a small question. Like, I do have a son of 18 months, and from past few months, there are some vaccinations which are going to him. So probably for 6 months, 8 months, and 16 months, and now for the 18th month, we need to have a vaccine. So shall we continue with that and do that gets any affection?
No,
Like
no.
basically for these vaccines, I need to go out, put the injection, etc.
18th month vaccine for sure, so you can go ahead with that. So another one question everyone asked, this is regarding your baby you are asking. So 18th month you can go ahead. For example, I fell down, I have to have a TT, but I took my COVID vaccine, can I have it? Such doubts are there in minds of many. You can surely have TT vaccine if you are falling down after COVID vaccine. Like yesterday I had COVID, today vaccine, and today I fell down. Yes, you can have TT vaccine also, because TT is the toxoid vaccine, whereas COVID is an inactivated or live attenuated vaccine. So two doesn't act, no, like cross act. So you can have both vaccines safely. So with considering other vaccines like hepatitis B, which are all of similar category like COVID vaccine, what we tell as live attenuated, you can have two live attenuated vaccines after 4 weeks interval. So, okay, if you are going to have a hepatitis B vaccine, you take it 4 weeks after your COVID vaccine. Okay, so if it is going to be, so the type of vaccine what you are going to take matters. The duration between COVID vaccine and the vaccine what you are going to take depends upon what vaccine you are going to take. Take a consultation of a doctor, and he will surely advise you. If it's a life attenuated, you can take 4 weeks interval and have the vaccine. But this 18 months baby can be vaccinated. Take him hospital, no issues, or a clinic of a pediatrician. Okay. I hope I'm clear.
Any questions?
So if anyone after smallpox, see, after actually smallpox is is completely eradicated from India. We only have chicken pox, which is varicella vaccine. Varicella vaccines are there. You can, that's a live attenuated vaccine. You can take chicken pox vaccine or COVID vaccine with a 4 weeks interval after the other vaccines. Okay, it's again of same category of COVID, so you have to give 4 weeks interval. Is there any vaccine after 5 years of baby? Yes, till 19 years we have vaccine. After 5 years, there will be only TT vaccines. You can give your baby, no issues. Till if it is girl child, till 11 years, and even at 19 years, you have vaccine. So you can give. Even after 5 years, there is TT vaccine you should give. So I think all done. No doubts. It's gone for time. Okay, you can take your vaccine and plan for in vitro fertilization or artificial conception after a month. After a month of second dose. That's what Indian vaccines have only 70 to 80% of protection, whereas Moderna and Pfizer have 80 to 90%. Whereas, okay, at least we have that 70 to 80%. So go ahead with this vaccine. We cannot bring Pfizer or Moderna here. Soon there are plans for it, but there may be many drawbacks because the Pfizer and Moderna are made out of the genetic material of the virus, which requires storage temperature of minus 70 degrees Celsius, which is not possible in a developing country like India. We cannot store such vaccine in rural areas, right? So it is this AstraZeneca, Covishield and Covaxin is being prepared in such a way that it is suitable to our condition, our temperature and our storage facilities. So right now we are having them. Please go ahead with that. You cannot wait for the other vaccines.
Any questions?
I think ma'am has left. Can I just check Meenakshi once?
Yes, Anil. Yes, ma'am has left, Anil.
Can you just check whether if ma'am can rejoin if possible? If not, we can proceed.
We will move to next session. Doctor can't join our meeting again. So now I request Mr. Anil Kumar to introduce Dr. Kamal sir.
Thank you. So indeed, that was very much touching instant to hear. Our prayers to many such families. Thanks a lot, ma'am, for more informative section in your absence. Thank you once again on behalf of organizers. So next speaker, Dr. Kamal Kotni, a budding medical practitioner and member of Guide Foundation for Young Generation. He completed his schooling in Sankal, Berhampur, Odisha. He was ranked state first in the project about global warming during his school days. In the year of 2017, he was selected by Tbilisi Medical Academy to attend exchange programs regarding clinical practices in Vilnius University, Lithuania. In the year 2021, he completed his MBBS studies and got graduated from the University of New Vision. He gave a lecture on the topic Challenges Faced by Present Doctors and Medical Students, conducted by Guide Foundation for Young Generation on 28 June 2020. He is passionate for doing various social service activities. Now I request Dr. Sir to please kindly take over.
Thank you so much. Is my voice is clear and audible?
Yes, sir, it is clear.
Thank you. Thank you so much, webinar, for giving me an opportunity so that I can share some information regarding my topic. And a very warm good afternoon to each and everyone, to all the doctors, to all the professors, and to all the participants. Hope you're doing safe. Hope you're fine and healthy. So my name is Kamal Kotni, and my topic is all about Georgia, a short review about the maternal and infant care. Pregnancy is just a wonderful physiological process a woman goes through. Being such a wonderful process, like the maternal health care is at a staggering challenges in the developing countries. Globally, like a woman dies due to the complication in pregnancy every single minute. Regarding my topic, Georgia, a small review about the maternal and healthcare. Georgia, the small developing country and a part of European Union of a total population of 3.9 million. Georgia has reached its Millennium Development Care under 5 years of child. However, the IMR, the infant mortality rate, and the MMR, the maternal mortality rate, is at unfavorable conditions. The infant mortality rate is twice as compared to the European Union regions, and the maternal mortality rate is 36 per 1 lakh live birth. Why? It is because of lack of facilities, due to low quality of perinatal, antenatal, and postpartum services that have been provided by this country. Approximately 500,000 citizens in Georgia, mainly the pregnant women and infants, face some sort of malnutrition deficiencies. Significant number of pregnancies and pregnant women, including the infant cares, have been facing micronutritional deficiency and anemia, mainly folic acid deficiency. We all know folic acid is the main important, nutrition for the development of neural development. So due to the deficiency of folic acid in this country, people develop cognitive deficits. At the same time, iron deficiency, mainly anemia, and at the same time, delayed development in infants. This is all because of the way this country developed. This country is an developing country, I would say, but the literacy rate over this country is such in a low pace that people are even not aware of the nutritions. The main thing the people face over the nutrition problems is because of the food they have. Being in a European country, I guess everyone will be aware of it. Like we will be seeing in childhoods, like every abroad countries eat bread, the wheat flour. They prepare their own wheat flour. That means they don't add proper nutrition. Eating wheat flour, like the bread for over 20, 30 years, over from birth till the end of the life, can make people face micronutritional deficiencies. As per the Ministry of Health in Georgia, the mortality rate of infants and childs is 20 times higher in the babies weighing 2,500 grams. Why? This is because of poor nutritional present in and during pregnant women. They are having very less nutritional level. The nutrition level in pregnancy women and the nutrition what they're intaking is not in an optimal range. And we all know breastfeeding is one of the significant factor that helps and contributing to develop a healthy child. So you will be shocked by hearing this information. Like before going into the information present in my country, Georgia, WHO has announced that the breastfeeding should be continued for 2 years continuously. And Georgia is such as an unfavorable condition situations, like nearly 13% of child population have never received the breastfeeding, and half a population of infants and children have been receiving breastfeeding, but only for 6 months. Whereas the breastfeeding should be done continuously for 2 years, but here they are receiving for only 6 months. So being such unfavorable condition in this country, being such an undereducated, like less literacy rate, WHO and UNICEF came forward to help this country in a proper reason. WHO came forward focusing on this country situation, and it's possible. They stated that it's possible to prevent maternal deaths. How? There are 2 recommendations. The first recommendations, before starting into recommendations, the main aim of these recommendations is to reduce the pregnancy complications and the causes of stillbirth. The first foremost recommendation that WHO have stated that the government has to follow in this country is increase the number of visits for the pregnant women, because you will have more opportunities to detect and manage potential problems and to reduce perinatal deaths. And the second recommendation is that offering pregnant women with several services like counseling on diet, optimal nutrition, physical activity, blood test, vaccination, fetal management. At the same time, they have already started food fortification. Food fortification is a procedure where a significant amount of nutrition is been added in the food. Like I mentioned, wheat flour, what they're having, they don't have any nutrition. Normally, wheat flour contains iron, but here in this country, the wheat flour doesn't contain iron. So because of lack of nutrition in the food, the stillbirths, spinal bifida, cognitive development deficits have been seen many in this country. So food fortification is a procedure where a significant number of nutrients, a significant amount of nutrients have been added to the food so that they can be consumed before and during pregnancy, so that the maternal and infant health would be optimal and normal. As well as Georgia is playing a pilot role for Eastern Europe and Central Asia, implementing and reducing guided by the WHO. I would like to say, like, in Georgia, we are lucky. I guess we are lucky because we are still in the first phase of COVID-19. We have never faced the second phase of COVID-19. We have lockdown since last year. Since last year, March 28th, the lockdown has been started, and still till this moment, we are having this lockdown. So the peoples are following the strict rules, but the health staffs and the resources are being redeployed to treat the COVID-19 crisis, mainly in pregnancy women and in infants, because the amount of the routine health services are still functioning. Sometimes it's a matter of raising an awareness. Nearly 70% of population in Georgia are uneducated, are really uneducated, because the country development plans, the country health plans, the country's education plans is not well developed. After WHO and UNICEF, when they combined and partnered with this country, the education system is bit developed. We'll be shocking with this information. In the year of 2010, there were 98 medical institutions in this country. And the year of 2017, there are only 104. Just see, within a span of 7 years, only 4 medical institutions have been developed. The peoples are not aware of what they're doing. The peoples are not aware about the health. The peoples are not aware about the nutritional support. They are not being educated. They are not being aware about the information about the things. Nearly 70% of population in this country face tuberculosis. 70% of population. We have been strictly said, like, when you're traveling in a public transportation, be aware about the surroundings, because 70% of population have tuberculosis and they don't have enough amount to treat themselves. Even the government have been reduced the treatment level of tuberculosis from 30,000 rupees to like 10,000 rupees, but still the people are not in a state to give 10,000 rupees because they're not aware. They are not aware about the health issues. They're not aware of these conditions, how what tuberculosis is. So awareness is one of the main things like this country needs. For example, in this country, every child has a universal health program plan, but the peoples are not aware of that. So only peoples are self-restricting themselves for to go and to do some tests like normal health services and normal health checkups. Child protection in this country and infant protection in this country is very, very, very less because of lack of education, lack of awareness, and people are not aware about what the situations they are going to face. Even for example, a severe conditions, even a severe disorder starts from a minimal symptoms. So people are not aware of what what they are facing. They are not being educated. So the WHO and UNICEF came together and they made the recommendations, like I mentioned, the recommendations. And at the same time, they have started the food fortification, which means they have the consumption of the food with nutrition is been developed in this country. At the same time, the UNICEF has developed the regionalization in perinatal healthcare. Regionalization means like developing and strengthening the perinatal healthcare. They have started providing all the diagnostic lab, all the financial supports to all the pregnant women, to all the infant cares, and they already been starting the birth registry. Birth registry is an electronic registry in this country where when a child gets birth, the name will be automatically be involved in the Ministry of Health. Even if the child visits second time, all the information regarding the child will be updated in the information so that the parents will be aware of what the child should do, what vaccination he should take next, what kind of nutrition should he provided, what kind of health services he need to be followed during this test. So my topic is like a short review about the maternal and infant care. I hope this was kind of informative, but I would like to say, like, first of all, aware your surroundings regarding nutrition and pregnancy, please, because without nutrition, the pregnancy, the women can face a severe complications which can lead to death. So thank you so much for giving this opportunity, and thank you Raghuman and Meenakshi ma'am and all the Guide Foundations. Thank you so much for giving this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kamal sir, for such an informative session. You make a session more informative.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now I request Dr. N. Krishnaveni, Assistant Professor of Economics, Nirmala College for Women, who is always render her support and encouragement for the department. I request you, ma'am, to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Meenakshi ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, it is very wonderful presentation, sir. Kamal sir. Good evening,
Thank
everyone. We are
so much,
already late, so I will not take much of your time. I'm going to wind it up as soon as possible. I feel honored and privileged having an opportunity to offer vote of thanks on this today's international webinar on maternal and childcare. Organizing international webinar cannot happen overnight. The wheel starts slowly weeks before the event. Maternal health is the health of women during pregnancy, childbirth, and the postnatal period. Let me first of all start by giving glory to the Almighty for making these 2 days international webinar a resounding success. I express my sincere gratitude to our respected secretary, Reverend Sister Dr. Ruby Alangara Mary, for her guidance and encouragement, assures us to always believe in things. I extend my gratitude to our beloved principal, Reverend Sister Dr. M. Helen, who are all sources of inspiration and who always keep in mind in future. Sister always guides us to prepare for life's challenges in a more positive way. I extend my gratitude to our Vice Principal, Reverend Sister Dr. Mary Fabiola, Controller of Examinations, Reverend Sister Dr. Imelda Mary, Dean of Academics, Mrs. Valencia Kamal, Dean of Student Affairs, IQAC Coordinator, for their continuous encouragement and support of all our endeavors. I place on record our deep sense of gratitude to Dr. Ramesh, Principal, BIT Institute of Technology, delivering the inaugural address on the first day during the inauguration. I extend heartful thanks to our keynote speaker, Reverend Sister Dr. M. Helen, Principal, Nirmala College for Women, Coimbatore. I would like to propose about honorary vote of thanks to our webinar coordinators, Mr. Anil Kumar TN, BIT Institute of Technology, Mrs. Meenachi, Assistant Professor of Department of Economics, Nirmala College for Women, Coimbatore. At the outset, my special thanks to Mr. Raghuman Bashir, founder of Guide Foundation for the Young Generation. I deeply thank Mrs. Sureka TR, HR Director, Anoka Talent Solutions, delivered the introductory address during the inauguration. I also extend my sincere thanks to Dr. K. Jayanti, Assistant Professor and Head, Department of Economics, Nirmala College for Women, Coimbatore, for her keen interest, guidance, and active involvement to make this webinar a reality. I would like to propose a hearty vote of thanks to our chief guest of the day one webinar, Mrs. Hemo Sri, clinical dietitian, Treetop Hospital, Maldives, who has shared her views on impact of nutritional on maternal health. She explained about importance of good nutrition, energy, protein and fat, calcium, iron, minerals and vitamin requirements during pregnancy. She also suggested that staying healthy during pregnancy includes adequate rest and exercises. Second session was by Mr. Blessing Calvin, Student Counselor and Assistant Professor, VIT, Vellore, on the topic, Dear Wonder Woman, you are in control. He insisted that the woman enhances their self-awareness, allows women to dream, builds their belief system. Women have to stay strong in crisis, also suggested, nurture your inner child, smile and never stop believing. Further, I would like to express my sincere thanks to Dr. Raja Rajeshwari Venkatesh, Specialist in Obstetrics and Gynecology, Coimbatore, Advisor, Guidance Foundation for Young Generation, on the topic Fears, Facts and Future COVID-19 in Pregnancy and Vaccination. Doctor has given excellent overview on the COVID-19, pregnant mother and COVID positive. Then thank you, Doctor, for enlightening the followers about COVID. I would like to propose a hearty vote of thanks to our chief guest of the today's second session, Dr. Kamal Kotni, medical practitioner, Georgia, who has shared her views on Georgia, maternal and infant care. We have been fortunate enough to be backfight team, very motivating, dedicated colleagues, Dr. Jacinta Maria Florence, Sister Adekale Mary, Miss A. Nisha Edwina, Dr. R. Anbuchelvi, Dr. R. Uma, Dr. Vasanti, Assistant Professors, Department of Economics, Nirmala College for Women, Coimbatore. My deep sense of appreciation to the organizing team for all their efforts. Last but not the least, this event would not happening without the preparation of wonderful audience, without the participation of wonderful audience. Thank you all for being with us this evening. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Requesting all the participants to please kindly fill the feedback form, which is in the text message. And we'll also be sharing the WhatsApp group as well. Thank you all. Thank you.